About a problem called capstick this morning. Capstick is where the calyptra, which is the top of the flower, does not come off and expose the stigma to be pollinated. This happens quite a bit on several different female muscadine vines. It's worse on some varieties than others, and it's worse in some years than others. But the problem is when these calyptra do not come off the top, it doesn't expose the stigma to receive the pollen. Then the flower cannot be pollinated, and therefore you can't set a berry. So you can see this cluster is a little bit past bloom. You can see all these with the brown. That's where the calyptra dried onto the flower and did not come off. And then you can see the top here is one berry where the calyptra did come off. It was able to be pollinated and then set a fruit. You can see this cluster too. A lot of the brown berries there or where the calyptra did not come off to get pollinated. Some varieties are really pretty bad about it. You can see as you go along to these other clusters, you can see other places where the caps didn't come off and get pollinated. We don't really know why, research-wise. We see it more at some times than in others. My general feeling is that we see it more in a hot, dry spring than we do after we get rain. Earlier this spring it was very warm and dry, and I was seeing quite a bit of it. Lately I've not seen as much now that we've had a lot of rain. Here's an example, as you can see on this cluster down here, where the calyptra there on the bottom, it just popped off. So when they're bright and green like that, abscise and fall off, that's what you're looking for. If they turn tan and brown, like this cluster here, that's what you don't want to see, and that's where they've died before they've come off, and so it can't be pollinated. So again, if you see people talking about capstick, that's what they're referring to. It's generally only a problem in the female muscadines. The perfect flowered cultivars, the anthers are much longer and they tend to swell up and push that cap off, and so you very seldom have a capstick problem on the perfect flowered. And then even if it does stick on there, they have the pollen, because they're producing their own pollen. A lot of times that pollen can stay underneath the cap and get pollination anyway, and so in general capstick is not an issue with the perfect flowered varieties. And this is one of the reasons why the female varieties are much more variable and lower in yield than are the perfect flowered varieties.